All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. Really quick housekeeping stuff. Thank you to all the people who watched the Asterisk Leon reaction. That video was going up crazy, so I appreciate all the support on that. New subscribers, welcome. This is some of the stuff we do on this channel. We talk about like competitive stuff. We do some reactions. We do just mostly Pokemon stuff, but I'd primarily like to focus on some competitive stuff, especially from like the more normal side of things, right? Like I'm probably a little bit more than the average player, but I'm not like Wolfie Glick, right? So I think it's a good middle ground for people who are trying to enjoy and learn the game a little bit to stick around here. Additionally, at 1,000 subs, I'm going to give away a copy of Scarlet or Violet to one person. If we get to 1,000 before the game is in my hand on Friday, I have the physical copies coming to me on next week Friday in the mail, so they'll be here that evening. If I get 1,000 subs before then, I'll give away 2 copies, so one to one person and one to another. But for what we're here for, I want to finally talk about Terastillization. I've been putting off talking about some Scarlet and Violet stuff just because I haven't been fully ready to let go of the Gala games, but I'm ready to move on. So you all know the terrestrial mechanic. Let's just read it. Terrestrial is the new battle mechanic in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This mechanic can be used once per battle, and when activated, creates a jewel and left around each Pokemon. So the first thing I want to talk about is that's something I wanted to confirm or not, whether or not it was like a once per battle kind of thing, right? Now, I'm pretty sure what they mean once per battle is that once one Pokemon on your team does it, no other Pokemon can do it. So like Z moves, Mega Evolutions, Dynamax, those are all once per battle. You do it once and that's it. But I'm pretty sure that doesn't mean like it's one-time use like Z move. That would say one-time use, right? So once your Pokemon terrestrializes, it probably stays that way until it faints or until the battle's over. Which is good. That's a good balancing mechanic that I think they just stick with. Each Pokemon in Paldea can terrestrialize, and each Pokemon has a special Terra type. When it's terrestrialized, it will change its type to a special Terra type. These are not specifically set by species and can vary by Pokemon. So on one Eevee, you can be a normal type, while others can be a flying type. So basically, at least the way it seems now, they don't have a necessary like rhyme or reason as to what type of Terra types a Pokemon that you can catch will have. Which makes it interesting, right? Because you might be kind of hunting for a specific one, and you might have to, like, if you're breeding or something, maybe you can pass that Terra type down. Or if you're catching, you kind of just have to catch until you find one, and then when you breed that, it always passes down the same Terra type, which I'm hopeful for, right? Because I think I'm okay with catching and catching and catching until I find the right Terra type I want, and then just breeding from there. And of course, people will be trading these things all the time, right? So it won't be that difficult once the game stays up and running. It'll be pretty easy to obtain the Terra type you want either through trades. If there's like a what's it called, the Wonder Trade feature, once Pokemon Home gets set up, people will do it there, so you should be okay. It does say here you will need a Terra Orb in order to terrestrialize a Pokemon, and in Paldea you will need to recharge the Terra Orb after use by either touching crystals of terrestrial energy or going to a Pokemon Center. That sounds more like an in-game kind of like if you use the orb. You can maybe use the orb on Pokemon to change the Terra type. I'm not completely sure. And then after a while, you have to recharge that orb, which is like fine. Granted, the Terra orb sounds like a held item too. It could be a held item. I'm doing this based on what like is officially been released as well, right? I'm not really using like a ton of leaked information. I'm trying to wait till the game comes out to talk about all that stuff. But the Terra orb could be a held item. Sounds like a held item. So you just take your Pokemon to Pokemon Center and recharge. I think it'll work kind of like berries though, because like if you give a Pokemon a berry in your playthrough, after it consumes it, it's gone. I think, but if you use it competitively, like on the ladder, if you use the berry, it doesn't go anywhere; it stays with it. So I think it'll work like that, which is ideal. You can also find special wild Terra Pokemon throughout Paldea. They can be seen with a special aura and will terrestrialize in battle with you, but the terrestrialization will break it. Okay, so that's information I wasn't aware of. So I wonder if that applies for competitive battles as well, because you find a Pokemon in the wild. It has a special aura. Apparently, there's overworld shinies in this game as well. And it will terrestrialize in a battle with you, but if you hurt it enough, it'll break the terrestrialization, and then maybe that's when you can capture it. This is the important stuff here, though. The terrestrial boost, right? So in addition to changing a Pokemon's type, you can change how many things work. If the Pokemon uses a move that matches its Terra type or original types, the move is stronger. So basically, stab. So like if you have a flying terrestrial type and you use like dual wing beat fly or Terra Blast flying, you'll get the stab boost, which is 1.5, right? The next part is what's really important. If a terrestrialized Pokemon uses a move that matches its Terra type, and its Terra type is the same as one of the original type, the strength of the move is even higher. So basically, if you use like 100 base power move, and you get stabbed, normal situation, you get, it's like basically 150 base power because it's 1.5. This, while there isn't like a confirmed number, let's just say it's 2 times, right? Your normal stab. So instead of 100, it's a 200 base power move. That might be a little bit busted, and I'll tell you why. Even like Z moves back in the day, which were pretty broken, they topped out, I want to say, at like 170 base power. Yeah, like 170 base power, and those were really hard to deal with as far as the damage output. This is basically saying you can get a move up to like I said, if it's 2 times and you have like 100 base power move, you can get a 200 base power stab move as long as that Pokemon exists on the field. You can like spam that, which is really, really tough because even Dynamax moves were like 140, 150 max. Like they were not that strong, and they were 3 turns worth, and they had a secondary effect. But you could also like Dynamax and defend against it, right? You can't actually do that here in this game. There is no Dynamaxing. There's some defensive Terra typing, which I get into in a second, but you cannot actually just double your HP like in Galar to defend against this. So it's gonna make for some interesting matchups, especially for like the stronger Pokemon that have like let's say Zacian's in the game, and it probably can't Terra type because of its ability and item. But let's say it could, right? And it has Behemoth Blade is 100. And then it goes to stab, which is like 150. And then it goes to like 300 against Dynamax Mons. In this, if you have a Zacian that can Terasteel for whatever reason, and let's say it goes from the 100 to the 200, and this is just me speculating that it's that low. It could be an increase from the already stab, right? So like, let me get my little calculator real quick for you guys. I don't want to give you the wrong math. 100 times a normal 1.5, right? Is obviously the 150. I'm just saying, I'm assuming it's an increase from the base, saying it's 2 times base. But let's just say it's something like 1.5 times the 150. It's actually a 225, so it's 2.25 increase. So that's like a 225 base power move into like non-Dynamax Mons, which is like insane because they're not that strong. So that could potentially be the most busted mechanic that we've had in these games, because like Mega Evolutions weren't that bad. I personally don't think Dynamax was that bad. There was a couple of moves that were busted, like Airstream was pretty broken, and like Steel Spike was pretty tough, and Max Quake. But I feel like there are ways to mitigate those. Like you can Tailwind against Airstreamers. You can avoid Max Quake. You can there's things you can do. And I guess you could technically do some of that stuff here. It's just a matter of the base power going into Mons that just aren't as bulky as Dynamax Mons. Now, something that I've heard that I don't see here is that apparently with these Terra types, right, as well, when you change it to a Terra type, your defensive weaknesses and resistances stay the same as your original types. No. They don't stay the same. They change the Terra type. So if you're an electric type and you Terra type into flying, you're no longer weak to ground. But apparently your offensive stab stays, right? So if you're an electric type that goes into Terra flying, you have now earned a ground immunity, but you can still hit water types super effective with your electric stab. With electric stab. Like not just a regular super effective, but with your stab. So like if you have 100 base power electric move, 100 base power, flying type move. Let's just say you just get a normal stab for Terastillizing, right? You go electric type, you keep the 150 base power for your electric type move, and now you get 150 base power for the flying type move. The best way that I can explain it simply. Which is actually nuts because you get all the defensive benefits with no offensive drawback. So essentially Mons with like 2 types can become 3 types without picking up extra weaknesses and actually maybe losing some weaknesses. So a Mon that I actually want to bring up. Yep, and I got that right. Is Tyranitar, for example, right? So it's rock and dark, and it gives you a 4 times weakness to fighting. You're weak to ground, you're weak to steel, you're weak to fairy, you're weak to grass, you're weak to water, you're weak to bug. So let's say, for example, you ghost type it. Like the trailer that they showed this in was Tyranitar ghost type terastillization, and it showed that the fighting type move did not work on it, right? So you go from a 4 times weakness to fighting to an immunity to fighting, which is pretty cool. You do take on a weakness to ghost and dark, but Tyranitar with its bulk, you look at its stats, right? It's 100 HP, 110 defense, 100 special defense, and then you still have Sandstream, which increases your special defense by 1 stage to like 150 base special defense, pretty much. So now, not only do you do that, but you're no longer weak to ground or fairy or steel or fighting or grass or water or bug. You're only weak to dark and ghost, which is 2 types, which is way better than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weaknesses that it has right now. Which is like insane for something like Tyranitar that's this bulky. Which is crazy. And you keep your rock and your dark type stabs. So now if you turn to ghost, and you don't even need, and that's another thing, you don't even need to have a ghost type move on Tyranitar. I'm not even sure if it learns any. It probably does, but Terra Blast is a move that you can give to your Terra type, and it goes physical or special depending on what your stats are, which is crazy, right? It's like hidden power but on steroids. So now you have rock, so you can have rock slide, you can have crunch, even though most people don't use crunch, but like lash out. You can have a dark type stab, rock type stab, ghost type stab, and then like dragon dance to protect. So essentially your opponent has to defend against 3 stab moves, and you're like, and usually with Pokemon what they do is they have a stab and a coverage, or 2 stabs and a coverage. You're essentially going to be able to have 3 stabs on a Pokemon like this, because you have 2 base types that you keep, and then you have a 3rd, which makes your offensive like domination really, really insane. And I'm really hoping that like it doesn't play out as broken as it sounds in my head, because it's really, especially like I said, because there's not necessarily a defense against it, right? You could probably say, oh, I can like Terra type and change my defenses, but let's say you're fighting a Mon and you do Terra type into Ghost, and they Terra type into dark or whatever. You may not be able to hit them for super effective damage, but like you still have your rock stab, right? And Tyranitar's rock type stab moves still do a lot of damage. So you can hit things for neutral, which is one of the most important things in competitive Pokemon, is like neutral turns. What I consider a neutral turn basically is when you can like avoid like 50-50 plays. What are 50-50 plays? Where like there's a guessing game between you and the opponent. But with something like Tyranitar, if you are terrestrializing into like a ghost type, whatever the type, you're thinking about hitting another mon for super effective damage, but you know your opponent might switch out or change their type, you just click something like Rock Slide, because Rock Slide will hit them for whatever damage they were going to get hit with regardless. Something that's like neutral. It's like when you have like a Max Quake Pokemon and you think they're going to switch in a flying type. That's like 50-50. They could switch in a flying type of your Max Quake or your Earthquake. So you do like your normal dark type move into that slot. So even if they do switch in, you still do normal damage. And if they don't switch in, you don't do as much damage as you would have, but you still do decent damage. So that's kind of the best way I can explain 50-50s and neutrals on the fly like that. I'm pretty sure that people could explain it better than me. But that's what I'm talking about. So yeah, I think that Terastillization is a really cool mechanic. I just think that it's going to be, at least to start, especially when the format is all over the place, it's going to be so unpredictable. It's going to be fun, but it's going to be really tough for a lot of players. Back in Sword and Shield, there was this thing called Great Ball Hell. And in the Great Ball tier of the ladder, it was always the toughest, right? In the sense that the players in Master Ball were better, but in Great Ball, the unpredictability was higher because there was a lot of people just using anything. That's what this format feel like it's going to be to start. It's just a lot of anything until things kind of settle out. People find out which Terra types are best for what Pokemon, which Pokemon are good, and things kind of settled out. But even then, just the variance that being able to change your type or adding a stab onto Pokemon is going to bring is going to be add a dimension to competitive Pokemon. I think some people are gonna enjoy, and then some people are gonna like despise. For me, I like stuff like this. I'm here for it. I hope the casual player base kind of enjoys it because they talk about things being kind of too standard for their liking, I guess. So this is going to be anything but standard, this kind of stuff. So you guys need to. I hope you guys play this game and you can see what a unpredictable metagame is like. No metagame is completely predictable. You have stuff that's like standard that you kind of know might show up, but between support and attacking and the differences in move slots, it's never 100% predictable, right? So that's all I got for now. Don't forget I'm doing the giveaway. So subscribe. We get to 1,000. I'm gonna give away a copy of the game. We get to 1,000 before next week Friday when I have the games. I'm gonna give away 2 copies. Also, let me know if you guys like this layout. I haven't actually used this layout in a long time. With the little triangle tunnel behind me. I just wanted to do something different. You guys know me. I normally use what do I normally use? Something like this. Yeah. This is the one I used for the last video. So something like this is what I normally use. So yeah. Let me know if you guys like this. I hope it's not too much. If not, I'll use it more often for these kind of videos. But until then, I see you guys in the next one. Peace.